could stay with me tonight, Grampkin said. Perhaps you can come to the games.
Let's go then, Max said. It's only a matter of time before the Fantors come down the same passage I used, and we don't want to be standing here when that happens. As if on cue, the low moaning drifted from the forest. They both looked around uneasily. Which way to your house? Grampkin pointed.
That way, but it's not a house exactly.
I don't care what it is, Max said. Can we just go, please? They began running through the trees. There was no path, and the branches of trees and brush snatched at them as they ran past. Grampkin led the way, but was so erratic in his direction that Max began wondering if the little man knew where he was going. He voiced the concern.
I've lived here all my life,
Grampkin wheezed.
Of course I know where I'm going.
They ran on for several more minutes before Grampkin came to such an abrupt halt that Max ran into him, knocking the Medjkin over and promptly falling on top of him. Grampkin wriggled out from the tangle and stood up.
Okay, now I'm lost,
he said, looking around.
This part of the forest doesn't look familiar.
You said you knew where we were.
And so I did. Then, but now things look all not so familiar.
You didn't lead us into the dark wood, did you? Max punched a tree in frustration. You did, didn't you? We ran right into the Fantor stronghold, didn't we?
We can't be far into it,
Grampkin reasoned.
Merely on the outskirts. If we turn around now, we should be able to make it back to the forest in no time. From there, I'm sure I can find the way home.
The moaning had not subsided. In fact, it had intensified and was growing louder by the minute. They won't have much trouble finding us here, Max said. I remember my father talking about the dark wood and how treacherous it is. I was never allowed to play within a good distance of it. Grampkin looked around, trying desperately to get his bearings.
Which way were we facing when we first entered the wood? If we just walk in the opposite direction from that, we should be out of its borders in short order.
I have no idea how long we've been in the dark wood, Max said, and we've changed direction several times, thanks to your rather casual approach to navigation. I'd have been better off just hiding in the forest until morning.
There was nothing wrong with my navigational methods, Grampkin pouted. Obviously, they've moved the forest around to confuse us. We'll just have to outsmart them by working our way back to the starting point and then find our way home by going in the opposite direction.
Max snorted. That's ridiculous. Who ever heard of moving a forest around? Not even Zohar could pull that one off. A branch rubbed against Max's arm. He yelped and jumped aside. Grampkin raised an eyebrow.
You don't seem convinced.
I'm just a little jumpy, Max said. Even as he dismissed the notion, some of the trees did seem to be in motion, not moving perhaps, but shifting slightly. They're just swaying in the wind.
Why do you think your father wouldn't let you play anywhere near the dark wood?
Max shrugged. Because of the Fantors, of course.
And what about when the Fantors were all but destroyed some years ago? Not much of a threat then, were they?
I guess he just didn't want to take chances. Look, can't we just go? There has to be some way out of the wood, or at least somewhere we can hide until... Grampkin gasped, as if a brilliant idea had just occurred to him.
The inn!
A ball of blue fire shot from the wood and hit the ground some distance in front of them. It carved a smoldering trench along the point of impact, and several nearby trees burst into flames. They burned for several seconds before exploding in a shower of limbs and splinters. Max and Grampkin were forced to hit the ground to escape the flying debris. "What inn?" shouted Max. "Where is it?"
"Somewhere in the wood not far from the castle. Your father set it up as a haven for passing travelers. We can't be too far from it."
"Well, that really narrows it down," Max said sarcastically, "considering we have no idea where we are in relation to the castle."
"Well, there's no need to be surly," Grampkin huffed. "The Fantors are coming from the castle. I'm sure as long as we keep them at our backs, we'll eventually find the inn."
"Well, I don't think I'll be running toward them any time soon," Max replied. He considered Grampkin's logic highly flawed, especially since it would likely require them going even deeper into the dark wood. But now they were both up and running, making little attempt to find their direction. The moaning had become louder and assaulted their eardrums mercilessly. Max's head pounded from the noise. Another ball of fire streaked toward them. They ducked, and it sailed overhead, demolishing a stand of young pines. A streak of golden light pierced the night sky and was just visible through the overhead branches. Max stopped and pointed. "Up there," he said. "What is that?" Gramkin followed the point, but shrugged.
"Another Fantor trick, no doubt."
He tugged Max's arm.
"Come on, we must keep going."
Max continued, staring upward. "It looks like a signal." He thought back to the battle at Ransom Hall and the brilliant golden glow he'd seen pulsing from Zohar's staff. "It's Zohar! He's signaling to us!"
"It could also be a trap,"
Gramkin insisted, still gripping Max's arm.
"I say we keep going."
"No!" Max jerked his arm away. "This is our only chance. It may be a trap, but we'll never outrun the Fantors on our own." For a brief moment, Gramkin hesitated, but then saw the truth behind Max's words.
"All right, but if we die, I'll never forgive you."
"Agreed!" They changed direction and ran toward the beacon. Then they were out of the woods and running through an open field. Ahead of them stood an old ramshackle inn, its windows alight and welcoming. A fireball crackled past, and they watched as it headed straight for the inn. Max's heart fell. Having seen what the flames could do to sturdy trees, there was no doubt in his mind what would become of the ancient building. Just before the fatal moment, however, the fireball seemed to hit a shield, and it exploded in a breathtaking display of sparks and leaping flame. The fire surrounded the building and began rising into the air as if crawling up an invisible barrier. Soon the inn was encased in a globe of blue flame, which flared and sparked furiously without doing any harm. Only a few yards from the inn, Max and Gramkin were brought up short by the fiery obstacle. Looking over their shoulders, they caught glimpses of the shadows advancing, and knew another ball of fire could appear and devour them at any time. At this range, the Fantors wouldn't miss. Through the flames, Max watched as the door of the inn flew open and Zohar appeared. His flowing white beard bristled and his silver robe sparkled in the firelight. His eyes flashed and he held his long knobby staff in one hand.
"Young Ransom!"
At Gramkin's wording shout, Max looked back again and saw a fireball heading their way. He turned his attention back to Zohar, who had raised his staff and pointed it in their direction. The wizard shouted a few words, and a stream of pure white flame shot from the end of the staff and collided with the globe of blue fire. The white fire burrowed into the globe, eating into it like dry sand absorbing rainwater. "Into the white flame!" Zohar cried, waving his free hand toward Max and Gramkin. "It's your only chance! Jump for it!" Max hesitated. Jumping into a wall of fire, whatever its color, wasn't his idea of an escape, but a final glance over his shoulder showed the fireball almost upon them. Taking Gramkin's hand, he counted to 3, and together they leaped into the inferno. They landed unscathed on the ground inside the burning globe. Zohar lowered his staff, and the white flame was quickly overpowered. "Inside! Quickly!" Zohar said, bending down to help Max and Gramkin to their feet. "You're safe for the moment, but they won't go away until you're out of sight." As they went inside, Max looked up at the sign hanging over the inn door. It read, "The Luscious Lemur."